Well, this is an exhibition of my drawings and paintings in a club that was established for painters, artists, and writers in the 19th century in Manhattan. And the opening was last night, and it was a very nice crowd, and I think a number of the people were surprised by some of the range in my work, that they hadn't seen aspects of it, floral paintings and still life drawings that had not been exhibited. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I am a figure painter. A life-size nude is something that I particularly enjoy, and there's one of them here. And then over here is a still life from about mid-1970s, I guess. I like the arrangement here. I'm centering the wall on a still life and then surrounding it with floral paintings. These are all pieces that I've done premier coup, largely from my own garden, although several of them are from... How's it going? How are you?
Fantastic.
Good. You might notice that they're very tonal in aspect. That isn't that I draw every leaf. They're pieces of color next to each other. My background is with Edward Dickinson as a painter. And if you look at this, especially you get away from it, you see that what's in front and what's behind is really being handled not by perspective or linear drawing, but by tones of color spots. I like to work from people and from things that I know and care about, and that goes for the flowers here. The gladiolus were raised by a neighbor, and they're on their way out, but I caught them on the last day, you might say. And that's a rose that I've grown, rose bush that my friend, the woodsman Floyd Woodbeck, planted by our barn, peonies. What happens round about a friend's garden. And the same is true over here on this wall, with centering on the nude, refining the nude, but flanking on both sides here are paintings that I did in 2005, I think it was, of the Israeli desert above the Dead Sea in Metzoke, Dragot. So you're looking at this Israeli desert and the light of this desert, which is very, very interesting. Last night, one of my painter friends was asking about this very intense blue up in here, and he said, "Were you using a phthalo color?" And I said, "No, but I made some discoveries. In painting in the desert, you have to add colors that are not normal in my palette in the cool North American light of New England, in New York. So I added warms, reds in here, and it's the addition of the reds and the colors in here that bring out the intensity of the blue, which is just the normal cobalt blue, with whatever else I put in it that I use. So here you see, if you're looking down, I've done a good deal of largely premier coup work, traveling in Iceland, Scotland, Arizona, and different places. I particularly enjoy the desert. And my friend Uri Blair, a wonderful painter, Israeli painter, he and I spent a week in this area doing these pieces. Wonderful to deal with such a range of the Dead Sea, which every body of water here, as you see here it is again, and then look at it over there where you can hardly determine what is water and what is land and what is happening. Here it is over up in here, just peeking in on the horizon. And where would you like to go? Should we go over to a landscape over here? This was a piece in the Berkshires, 1977. And these are tamarack woods. And a painter, acquaintance of mine said, oh, that's a very aggressive painting. You just boom up against the line of the trees in here. And I was saying that to a young acquaintance, a young friend, and she's really a very fine writer. And she was saying, oh no, I go down along this path and walk through into the woods and I can feel the branches catching in my hair. Now let's go and take a look at the drawings. This was done in 1967, a charcoal drawing of Umpachini Falls in Sheffield, where you've been, Annetta. And the person who acquired this drawing, her father proposed to her mother on this rock. Mm-hmm. And the Umpachini Brook is a wonderful mountain stream. Umpachini is the name of an Indian chief. One of the Stockbridge Indians, and a few hundred yards down the way flows into the Concopat River. And it's a swimming hole where my children learn to swim. And you can feel the presence of the Indians when you're there. Now these portraits on either side, again, a number of people last night hadn't ever seen these. I might say a few things about them. My friend Mason Hardy, who was up here on the left, died in August, and he was a great-grandson of the painter Chester Hardy. He was a lawyer and was instrumental with Barney Hodes and myself in founding the New Brooklyn School. We taught art on a one-to-one basis like I have with no one else. And it's, as you can see, is a light drawing compared with this down in here. And I kept it this way. This was 2 months before he died, because if you look at it close, you see that the eyes are focused over here to the right, but if you get away from it a little bit, they seem to be looking at you. If I had dug in with darks, and I will point out that the darks are not necessary. That's a very massive head. That's because you know, if you know where you're putting the values, the shades of light and dark, you get the front and side of things without having to plunge down into a great stretch of values. But if I'd drawn it out like I'd drawn Patrick in here, you wouldn't have had that ambivalent sense of age, do you see? And how you come down and dig into the bone structure that happens when you're 80 years old. So, old people and young people, very, very fascinating. This is the model Mimi Scher, who I painted and worked with and really learned to do the nude with her. She was an old-time model. I always called her the queen of models. And this was a young model. Now down over here, sketchbook work. Those poses were probably, 5 minutes a piece, I suppose. These are 2-minute poses. And I love this kind of work because it took me many, many years to know what I was at with a figure, to catch it so quickly you don't have time to think. I work very tonally, and the line comes in adjunctive to the tone in my drawings as it does in the paintings. Here's one more, but it didn't fit on the other wall, but it worked. It worked on this wall.
One more from...
This one more from Mitzigay, drive out in Israel of a canyon, and looking away from the sea. But you can see what a dramatic, powerful subject it is, and I think it works well on this wall. Where you can see how painterly the drawing of Puccini Falls, as the two in key and tone work well together. And then this wall, this painting in Great Barrington, looking out over the hills west, was a kind of a departure for me. A departure in the sense that I went back to something that I'd done with a very rough ground. As a student, when we used to scrape off our paintings, our canvases, and work on perhaps 4 or 5 times, and you'd take it down with a razor blade, and then I'd put on flake white over it, gave it a surface. I wanted that surface because it broke up the color, as you can see in here. There are all kinds of color going on in here, and it's handled differently than when one puts the paint on a smoother or a smooth surface. It allows for a kind of a scumbling of color and a harmony and a unity that then went on into figure paintings and other things. And I've done a number of work, interiors, big pieces. This vase with flowers was painted in Sheffield. It was done on paper, and I've done a great deal of work on paper, but it has a different feel to it working on paper than it does working on oil. And I like this wall with the oil painting. They go together as vertical pieces. And as somebody remarked last night, it's a good ending for this show. It's like somebody has clinked a glass, you see. I like that image. Is that fini?